Definition of the General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR). The General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR) is a law established by the European Union on April 27, 2016. This regulation, officially known as Regulation EU 2016/679, focuses on protecting the personal data of individuals. It came into effect on May 24, 2016, and its rules started to be enforced on May 25, 2018. The GDPR is important because it regulates how personal data about people in the European Union is collected, used, and stored. This means that organizations must follow strict guidelines to ensure that individuals' personal information is kept safe and private. 1. Personal data. Definition: information relating to an identified or identifiable individual. Examples: basic identity name, ID numbers, contact details, email, phone number, biometric, financial, health, or location data, online identifiers, IP addresses, usernames, cultural, social identity, race, religion, political opinions. 2. Processing. Definition: any operation performed on personal data, for example, collection, storage, alteration, sharing, deletion. Scope: includes both automated digital and manual physical actions. Key obligations: lawful basis for processing. Transparency, data minimization, and security measures. Point 3. Data subject: the individual whose personal data is processed. GDPR prioritizes protecting their rights, for example, access, rectification, erasure. 4. Controller. Role: determines the purpose and means of processing personal data. Responsibilities: ensure GDPR compliance, lawful basis, transparency. Implement security measures and conduct data protection impact assessments (DPIAs). Appoint a data protection officer (DPO) if required. Accountability: remains liable even when using processors. Point 5. Processor. Role: processes data on behalf of the controller. Requirements: operate under a written contract with the controller. Follow controller instructions and ensure data security. Obtain authorization for sub-processors. 6. Data Protection Officer (DPO) role: advises on GDPR compliance and acts as a contact point for data subjects, supervisory authorities. Mandatory appointment required for public authorities, organizations processing large-scale sensitive data or monitoring individuals systematically. Independents must report directly to top management and possess expertise in data protection law. Point 7. Key principles: lawfulness, fairness, transparency, clear communication with data subjects. Purpose limitation: data collected only for specified purposes. Data minimization: collect only necessary data. Security: protect data from breaches. Accountability: demonstrate compliance through documentation. GDPR Principles Summary. 1. Lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. Definition: personal data must be processed legally, fairly, and in a transparent manner. Requirements: establish a lawful basis for processing, for example, consent, contractual necessity, legal obligation. Clearly inform individuals about how their data is collected, used, and shared. Point 2. Purpose limitation. Definition: data must be collected only for specified, explicit, and legitimate purposes. Requirements: avoid processing data for purposes unrelated to the original intent. 3. Data minimization. Definition: only collect data that is adequate, relevant, and necessary for requirements. Refrain from gathering excessive or irrelevant information. 4. Accuracy. Definition: ensure personal data is accurate and kept up to date. Requirements: take reasonable steps to correct or delete inaccurate data promptly. Point 5. Storage limitation. Definition: retain personal data only as long as necessary for the intended purposes. Requirements: define and enforce data retention periods. Securely delete or anonymize data once no longer needed. Point 6. Integrity and confidentiality. Definition: process data securely to prevent unauthorized access, loss, or damage. Requirements: implement technical measures, for example, encryption, access controls. Adopt organizational safeguards, for example, staff training, policies. Point 7. Accountability. Definition: organizations must demonstrate compliance with GDPR principles. Requirements: maintain records of processing activities. Conduct data protection impact assessments (DPIAs) for high-risk activities. Appoint a data protection officer (DPO) where mandated. Foundation for compliance. These principles form the core framework for GDPR adherence and guide organizational policies. Documentation: controllers must keep detailed records to prove compliance, for example, lawful basis retention schedules. Proactive measures: organizations are expected to embed these principles into all data processing activities, from collection to deletion. By adhering to these principles, organizations ensure responsible data handling, protect individual privacy rights, and mitigate risks of non-compliance penalties.